Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. This is The Awesome Journey, and I am your host, Kelly Steinecke, along with my co-host in care, Christy Howard. Wait, she's usually beneath me, y'all, so I'm usually this way because our guest is over there. But we're the guest today. So the awesome journey that we are going to be talking about today is that of the awesome journey. Because y'all, we were just saying before we came on, I can't believe that it's been, I think it's 65 episodes. And it, as much as I want to, part of me is like, but then there's another part that it doesn't feel like it. It's just been, time flies. And that is a true story. 14 months ago, we threw a date on the calendar. Well, before 14 months ago, we launched 14 months ago by throwing a date on the calendar and just saying we're doing it. And here we are still. So we're going to have a little chat about that and talk about what's coming up. We're going to have a little break coming up here in between. We're going to end what we will refer to as season 1. And then we will be relaunching season 2. Oh, well, look at Christy leaving. Which that's part of the reason we're going to be taking a break, but I'll wait till she gets back on here. But we just kind of wanted to take a minute to say, talk about the journey that the awesome journey has taken over the last 14 months. And starting with this idea of, truthfully, it was just a, hey, welcome back. Starting with just me wanting to do something, living a little bit louder in my purpose, and something also to help my own personal mental health. And hence why we've always focused on mental health and have organically really grown into the lane that we're in. And we're just incredibly blessed for the amazing guests that we have had, who we will have coming up, and looking forward to a little break because there are big changes coming. What do you want to say about that, Christy?
Well, my mute wasn't coming off mute. So it was just like, bag it. We got a storm coming in, but you guys got the monsoons today.
I heard. We had a good one last night.
I heard. I'm looking forward to them because we get rain here all the time. So no, it's been a wild ride. It's the people that we've met and what they've gone through. It tends to make you realize that God is in control, and there's times that we hit the rock bottom, to get on our knees and to be able to go through that journey, to be able to help others. And that's what I like about this, that we have been able to open the door to conversations that people are hesitant to have. Recently, both of us got, well, you've been in Facebook jail, but for 15 years, believe it or not, I have never been in Facebook jail, but I was there for 2 days. Their 2 days is 3 days over a cute little picture that I posted in 2012. And you didn't even get a reason why.
No, neither time. I've been banned 2 times in the last month. I've been kicked off twice. No explanation, just your account is closed. Nobody can see that you're here. You can't access. You can appeal. You have 180 days to appeal. The appeal involves sending a selfie, and then you're back. They don't even message you that you're back on. It's just you're just off. And
people could still see me and they could message me, and then I would just text them saying I can't respond. But anyway, but Instagram is connected, and we were still able to do that. LinkedIn, we're here. More professional platform. However, it's over the years, I got on in 2008, and through that time, you would have the conversations that you're seeing would not be on it because it was purely just business. But because of COVID, the mental health became an important conversation with companies saying that they were pro mental health, which I've learned that a lot of them are just saying it.
Lip service.
Yeah, a lot of lip service. And, it has to do with suicide, trafficking, people, sharing their political views, sharing about their faith and that they're Christians or they're, Muslims or, standing for Israel. And that's should be how people have conversations.
Yes.
Not being offended by what somebody believes in, somebody's done. Our story is our story, and our story is something to share. We should never hide from it. That's why I say I dance with my skeletons, because Jesus died for my sins, and nobody else can judge me. However, we don't cater to our haters because we're always going to be judged. But our guests come on and they have battled a lot of darkness, and they're out there fighting for people and doing things for people they don't even know. And so I honor our past guests. We've got just a few more. And then jumping back in September, we already have our first one coming on. There is a method to our madness at times of why our guests show up on the times that they do. What do you think?
Yeah, so true. And then even times where I feel like we couldn't have planned this any better if we tried. Because there are some things where, we both believe that, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I definitely struggle with his timing sometimes and want it faster and in my time. But we have to remember.
Or we don't want it at all.
Yeah, there's that. That's a whole different show. But for sure. And I think, you brought up so many good points. And the part of with our guests is seeing that continued, inspiration, motivation, and hope of watching people turn their pain into purpose and doing unto others and how, and we never planned this part of it. We're both women of faith and we've always talked about that. But everybody's story kept coming back to this big change when either they found Christ, they found God, they found faith, they found spirituality, whatever it was that helped them out of their deepest, darkest place. And it was just kind of fascinating how open people were to share these stories and how we're now seeing, and I love seeing this, more and more people talking about men's mental health, which it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month and PTSD Awareness Month this month. And being more open about having that conversation, having child trafficking, child sex trafficking, talking about that topic. That was one, I know the first time that we had it, there were a few people that told me like, ooh, I don't know if I can watch that. But I think it's a conversation. We continue to have the conversation. And Joe Lembo recently had on, she's such an incredible resource. And I did have quite a few people reach out and just say, holy mackerel, I had no idea of all of these things. And I also think, to go on what Christy was saying, is the part about having conversations with people. I think we learn the most from people, obviously, because we've all been on different paths, different journeys. None of ours are the same, regardless if we've gone through similar things. They're all different. But I think we should expand our minds. And I can say for me, I've changed my views and maybe even some of my beliefs after having some of these conversations of what I used to think. And because too many people, I think, are stuck in the space of, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong and I'm right. And I just don't get that. Like, come on, people, you need to be open-minded and expand and listen to understand, not to respond. I think that's a big problem that a lot of folks have. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I know since we started this, my faith has gotten so much stronger. It's just, and I've gotten a lot softer. I mean, and if anybody doesn't know, I'm returning back to Arizona after 12 years and 7 moves. And somebody had said to me when I was talking to them, and they said, well, you say it how it is, and you've got that little, you've got that rough edge. I'm not that person anymore. I've gone through 12 years of hell and some good things, but some hell. And the softness is maturity, but also having having that relationship. and understanding that somebody else's journey isn't mine, and understanding that they're allowing themselves to be on our show. And yes, we have a lot more men than women. And that's what I think is so cool about it, because we have some badass men. I mean, these are some badass men that have fought for us and have done so much. And yet they allow themselves to be so vulnerable and to share everything. I mean, the deep, dark about suicide, about cheating on wives, the drugs. I mean, just the conversations of, you know, not having the support system that they thought they had. And it allows me to have faith in humans. But also, you know, with women, we tend to be able to have our bitch fest. You know, we can whine, we can vent, we can, you know, we just talk it out. And men don't have that place. And that's why with the men's mental health, it's, you know, they're not allowed to feel. Well, I'm sorry, they do feel. It's very important for them to feel and to share their journey so other people can be not afraid and not look at their life and go, I'm embarrassed. I shouldn't have done that. You know, sometimes we do things, and I mean, we do things in our life, but it's a lesson. It's a mistake that somebody might say, well, God, I can't believe you did that. Well, you're not living in my shoes. You don't understand, you know, it's, you know, it just, so for the show and the people that we've met, it just,
it's kind of mind blowing, truthfully.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and I got the number, it's 990 million, billion, or whatever people that are on LinkedIn registered. And my mother's 88 and and she's registered. So somehow she doesn't even know how to use it. But you look at your connections and then you're like, oh, I need to reach out to that person. And then you go onto their page to see what they're posting and what they're doing. And then you go in, if they have an open connection, you go in and see who their connections are. And then you just continue to look of who would be interesting. I bet they've got a story. And so the list for next season, I think it's going to pivot again. It's
going to continue to just evolve naturally. It's on its own journey. And I think, you know, one of the things that I'm so proud of with what we have done is kept it, you know, we 100% wanted to be unscripted, wanted it to be live, because we wanted it to be real and make it a safe place where people can have these deep conversations to share. The biggest compliment that we get is when a guest comes on and they're like, I just felt like I was in your living room, like having a cup of coffee.
And then they're like, when can we do it again?
Yes, that's the best. And we have created true life friendships with some of these folks. Like it's kind of unbelievable sometimes when we look back to some of the things. And, you know, I think that the very first geek out that I had was Ben and Jess Owens. Ben Owen had posted public facing how he loved what we were doing. He wanted to be on our show. And I called Christy on a Friday night and I was like, oh my God. And, you know, she just kind of chuckled at me and was like, and?
Kelle gets impressed. I don't. It's like, okay.
I just love them so much and their story, and like, they're friends. Like, I love them, watching them evolve and what they do. With Chris Hennessy, and then Ben and Jess, we are going to be having on wrapping up this last bit of season 1. But again, blessed to have them as friends. Some of these conversations we couldn't have dreamed of having in the beginning. I think one of the things that both of us have inside of us is, because people would be like, how did you get that? Be like,
we ask. We just ask. You just say, hey, you want to come on and talk to us?
Yeah, and honestly, I think there's been one person that when we had a conversation that said no, and it was their board actually had said no.
Well, guess what? We don't want you on. If you're going to listen to a board, you don't know what we're all about.
Yeah, and it's unfiltered, so
that's fine. That's
But
that's fine. We didn't want
to have some of the people that we've had, even wrapping up season 1, we would hang up and be like, "Wow, that just happened! How incredible!" And how much we've grown through each conversation, and to go back on one of them, because we will, Kevin Donaldson, we all had mentioned previously when we had his live that was recorded, but it was a live recording. And it'll be a short series that we will run in between the seasons, along with other shorts that we're going to be doing another one with him this week, actually, and we'll be running that before the end of the season, just kind of as a follow-up update of what's been going on and his story and his journey. And this is what I'm saying, we couldn't have written how that all played out, but that hit Christy and I can say for me personally, it hit me wildly deep. I was so emotional after that episode for days, and it changed who we are, and it changed. That's why we have Not Today on our pages, both of us on our personal page and the Awesome Journey page, and on Christy's Authentic Brand page, just because that is what we want to remind everybody every day, is we know everybody's going through something. Whether it is that you're still looking for a job, we unfortunately know people who have been out of work and can't get a job, or then by working 4 different jobs and trying to make ends meet, relationships ending, all the things, people are going through stuff. And if there can be some conversation that just helps give them enough to get over the hump and say, not today, then job done. And that's all that we really ever intended to do. But it's really helped both of us, and I will totally agree on the whole faith process. My faith has deepened so incredibly more over the last 14 months. And it's because when you're around people who are not just survivors, but thrivers and real, and still just saying all the stuff out loud that people need to hear. Because there's such this weird, I think, shame behind certain conversations, and there is no shame. You're not wrong for thinking bad thoughts or for being in a dark place. I mean, that's a normal thing. So I think it's so brave, and to watch people be so vulnerable, and that is just something that inspires you to want to be a better human. And I'm truly blessed that God led me to want to do this show to begin with, and to, of course, reach out to Christy, because I prayed about it and he kept saying Christy for my co-host. Because it was about me, for my mental health and my own mental health, and for me showing up and being accountable, because I was looking for inspiration, motivation, and hope of my own, because I was feeling really kicked in the gutter after 2020, and then working with a couple of business folks that was not a good ride following, and was just feeling beat up by life. And then we've all been there. And again, I'm just grateful to the grace of God for leading me to a microphone, and to Christy, because we've said this many a times. We've known each other for 15 years, but we have such a special friendship, special bond. We've been through a lot in the past 14 months. Wouldn't change a moment of it, because it's led us to where we are today with our friendship. God, I'm going to tear up already.
I'm going to tear up. So when you're talking about that, because looking at these conversations, I'm going to go 2-part because I want to go back to Kevin. I'm going into my 3rd year of marriage. I got married at 59, and very independent, and I'm not always the easiest person, because it's like, I'll just take care of it. And then, having a relationship with Kelle, and it's a different relationship, because we're friends, but we also, do the show together. So you see some rough spots. Relationships, any kind of friendships and relationships, have some tough times. And this 14 months or whatever hasn't been a great ride for either one of us, but for me, listening to everybody's story, I don't quit.
Yes.
It's all about having that conversation. It's all about being transparent. I mean, my business is called Authentic, but being transparent and understanding neither one of us are walking on each other's shoes, and being empathetic of allowing the person to walk the journey, but letting them know that you're with them. So, you know, with me, who battled depression since I was 8 until I was into my 40s, you know, and I still, you know, we all have our bouts. I can't, you know, but I know what the triggers are. To understand that if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be able to coach the people that I coach.
Mm-hmm.
When I coach somebody, I just had somebody I'd known for years. She'd message me on Facebook, and finally I'm like, just let's get on a phone call. She goes, well, I see a therapist. I'm like, well, good for you. I'm sure you're saying what you think that the therapist wants to hear. We talked for an hour, and I messaged her the other day and I said, how are you doing? She said, it was the best thing that I needed because you got it. It's like I understood her darkness, and I was able to show her where her power was. And just like with our guest, they share their stories to show us that they get who they are now. And they weren't going to just shut it down because it was not today.
Yeah,
so going back,
wanted to. Yeah, for sure.
And going back to Kevin's, I mean, and our YouTube has all our guests, you know, our past. But Kevin I'm not the crier, but I have. Kevin's story. He has a podcast, the Suffering Podcast, and I won't go too much into it, but he had a co-host, just like Kelle and I, and they ended up taping, and his co-host Mike, because they tape in a studio, and just said, hey, you know, I love you. And then he went home and ate his gun.
I stand that. It's one of those things, you know, I think there's so many things from that story that hit me so hard. And when I'm saying emotional, like after we did the taping with Kevin, because I had a hard time just trying to get through the introduction because I didn't want to make it about, you know, it wasn't about Christy and I, it was about Kevin. But it's hard not to be emotional sometimes with, you know, I'm the crier, but Christy, same. And for a couple of days afterwards, it was a lot because it was a lot to process. And I think the reason is I was like, been there. Like I've been in that spot where I didn't want to be here tomorrow. Didn't want to be here tomorrow. And
we both have.
Oh yeah. And more than once, you know, and I don't say in any kind of shame. I did. I felt that way a few times in my life, following severe trauma, because I didn't want to feel it anymore. It was too much. It was too overwhelming. Whatever the situation was. But there was something about when Kevin made the comment about Mike. The reason he didn't reach out to him or his other buddy that was like 5 minutes away from him was because he didn't want to be stopped.
Right.
And there's that whole thing about acceptance and what Kevin, I think, is such a pillar, an example for so many, because he's saying, you know what, I'm falling apart. I don't even know how to deal with this, but I've got to lean into it because it's not going away.
And what was great was he honored us by leaning into it the first time right after they had the service. And for us, and the reason why I get emotional, because I know both you and I both have our dark days. We both know it. We can feel it. Doesn't matter if we're cross country. And, I'm big on blowing up phones because I've been there where nobody's blown up my phone. And for the fact that Kevin says, something, I'm going to go through this, but I'm going to make it bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it where it's not today. And for the fact of that, that he's doing that, I feel that it combines with the awesome journey. We're all on this journey. We're on this side of the dirt right now. Yes, we do have that choice. Suicide is not the answer. I've been there 3 times in my life. And it's where you just, it's a, what do they say? It's a short term. It's a right. Having a core group of people, or even just a stranger, because our guests come on as strangers. I mean, yeah, a few of them, we knew, but they get deep down because there's times that they just want to share their story, not get into where there's a podcast or in front of, to be a speaker and everything like that. They just want to share. I mean, just like, Kelly and I, we share. We dance with our skeletons because somebody out there, another female, will say, wow, I'm not the only person that's gone through this.
Yeah, or anyone. And I think that's so important. And, suicide isn't something people like to talk about. Same with child sex trafficking. And one of the things, to take this too, I think having, the core group of people is imperative, but also having, because Joe talked about this with the child sex trafficking, is to have a safe adult for youngsters, to talk to. But I think part of the thing that we've learned so much and over time is it's also not just about providing the safe place for people to share their experiences and their journeys, but it's also about providing a space of no judgment, because guess what, we're all human and we've all screwed up. I mean, there is no doubt, and we're not done screwing up. Like, I mean, we're going to screw up as long as we're on this side of the dirt. It's just part of the path, and we're going to make bad decisions, but hopefully we learn from them. But I also love, and I'll pull this back around too, for how many people that we've talked to who have been severe, like long time drug addicts, hardcore drug addicts, and have gotten clean. And this goes back to Ben and Jess.
Chris Smith.
Yeah. And how they've turned all of that around and what they do for their communities to help people. Chris Smith is one to me that will always be, because I thought of him doing the Kevin Donaldson episode with Not Today, because he does that every morning when he looks in the mirror. He tells, the devil, you're not going to get to me today. I'm going to beat you. I will battle you and I will win. I will win every day. Yeah. And there is something about Chris Smith that every time he speaks, I feel like I have been to church in the best way. He exudes the Holy Spirit. Yep. And just seeing that, I think, is so important. And Chris Smith was one that also said this, is he grew up in a situation where he never saw anybody get out of that lifestyle. Right. It was drugs, alcohol, abuse, breaking the law, in and out of jail. That's what you did. That's what he grew up with. That was normal. He didn't know anything else until someone said they were going to make a change because they didn't want to do it anymore. And they found Christ. And Chris
it's really when he got down on his knees, getting that knock and thinking that it was the parole officer asking,
yes, because God said,
I need help. And there's that door. Yeah, that door knock was there, and his friend was there to take him. And that changed his life. And I know a lot of people are like, we're not Bible thumping, but understand, look around you. grab onto something that you believe in, that's good.
Or even, because this is another Ben Owen ism, is, find what breaks your heart and run towards it.
Yeah.
That's what they do with the drug addicts and children being trafficked, and what happens with them. And they are doing incredible things. And I do think that's part of the reason why we do go through the bad stuff. Like you said, Christy, being able to coach people on that, being able to talk to people about that. And I think it's also very cathartic. And for people who, because we've had some people too say like, oh, I couldn't get on and talk about that yet. Like that's just too raw. And I get that, because domestic violence, I would not talk about that probably for a good 7 to 10 years, because I carried the shame, because that's what society says about it. And I carried that. And I hadn't forgiven myself, which is what I needed to do. So I think there's so many different things about listening, because again, we've heard people say, I heard this story or this guest and oh my God, changed my life. Again, job done. We just need to be heard. And if people had more of a, and to circle back when we started this, and I know everybody doesn't need to be reminded about 2020 and 2021 and how it continued to carry on and still does some of that crap, is we were just so over everything you turn to. There was fear. It was just ugly. And it was like, can we just put some light into this world for an hour a week? And because if everybody did a little something, what a difference it would make. Because people sit back and are critics to everything. And I just want to be like,
offended. They get so offended.
Yeah. So what are you doing to change it? I think things suck, then do something. And this is what we thought we could do. And again, what it has done is it's immeasurable. And I know my mom and stepdad were kind of like, why are you doing this when you're not getting paid? And I get it, because they didn't understand it, but now they do, because now they see, oh, you guys have both gotten some work out of this. And yes.
Yeah, but we're still not even doing it about the work. We're doing it to be able to share stories.
To do with that. But it's
goodness
always comes when you give, because you want to give truthfully from your heart. And that's what we've done from the very beginning. And it will always continue that way. You get back. And then we weren't trying to do anything to get clients or to have that happen, but it did happen. But I wouldn't change a thing about it. I think it's funny to go back and look at some of the earlier episodes. And my background has changed like 3 times in a matter of 4 months or 14 months. Because
I keep on changing my computer around. So,
Yes. You change your angle. I change my location.
I'm on 3 computers now, not 2. So.
Oh, good Lord. And so we and really kind of to wrap back around is we will be, since Christy is moving back to Arizona, which I'm super pumped about.
So am I.
I know, it's so bad. She's going to be obviously traveling cross country and moving. I'm going to be doing a little bit of traveling. So we just decided, hey, let's take a little bit of break on that time, because there's so much to do, and do a little reset. And then we can do a relaunch of season 2, which again, we're going to continue the same format in the sense of it's going to be unscripted, unedited formatting. I will be doing a series of shorts, not just from Kevin Donaldson, but from past episodes as well, just to be putting those out while we're on hiatus. And just to have everybody be able to have a chance of some of the amazing conversations that we've had. Because truthfully, going back on our list, it blows my mind on it's shocking. And how heavy we came out of the gate with, Bob Hamer, who we just had back.
Right.
He was guest number 2, and we were like, well, we kind of set the bar pretty high when we bring an undercover FBI agent for, episode 2. And then we really got right into the emotional stuff right after that, because that Chris Fields, Clint Hatton, and all of them have led to all of these other incredible relationships. And and folks that we are so blessed and privileged to be able to call friends, and then to have people reach out to us and say, like, how can I be a guest on your show? And we generally, if anybody is wondering, we just have a conversation to explain basically what the show is and what you're looking for and what you're looking to share. We don't ever want to make this a sales platform. If you're launching a book, you have an incredible story, of course we're more than happy to do that. But we don't want people coming on here and selling stuff. Like, that's not the jam that we're going for. We want to.
We don't even sell our own stuff.
Exactly. And so we want to retain that, because I think that's what's important, and what does resonate with people is that it is just real conversation. It's not, there is no end goal other than just being real and raw. And, it is kind of funny though, when we have guests back, it feels like a little homecoming with them. Like, we just had 𝑣𝒘𝒆𝒏𝒆𝒚, we just had back on. I adore him. And yet still, we're like, there's so much more we could talk about with them. I mean,
We'll probably pull them back in.
Yeah, because and you'll be back in Arizona, and we all met. And for those of you that don't know, he's associated in the whistleblower from the Fast and Furious operation here in Arizona, and Brian Terry, who was the Border Patrol agent that was killed during that from one of the weapons that was traded. And Peter was a whistleblower, and the irony in all of it is that that's how Christy and I first connected, really, was through nonprofit and charity work. She was doing a Brian Terry event here in Scottsdale. And
they hadn't even started the foundation. They
Yeah.
didn't even have the foundation. I was just like, let's put something together to honor him. Yeah. And I just threw it together.
Well, it wasn't it was an awesome event. So that's how we originally connected, was we met through, and it was at a different charity event, but it was for, that, because we had a lot in common. We were both involved doing some pretty big events at that time for different nonprofits, or she was doing for.
I just did it. There's no nonprofit. It was just like, I was supposed to do an event. God told me. I woke up one morning and I heard this voice saying, you're supposed to do an event. I called Jay Dobbins and Vince Sheffalo, who has now passed on. And I said, I don't know where this came from, but I'm supposed to do an event for Brian Terry. And they both said, were you at the coach house drinking last night? And I'm like, no, actually I wasn't. Believe it or not. So I walked around good old Scottsdale and just said, we're doing this event. You have no reason to say no. And if you have reason to say no, explain it to me. So yes, it was successful. And then the following, year, they decided to create the foundation. And then I had the event in Dallas as well. Same reason. And I'm looking forward to somehow finding some time once I get home. Do something for, the local, Craig, he's down in Dirty T. We had talked when I lived in Houston about doing a golf tournament. It was right before COVID, because Houston is rampant with the trafficking.
Yes.
But I tend to prefer just to throw it together and not be really attached to a per se foundation. It's just, let's put something together and give it back to other people. Because you tend to get some red tape in that one. But no, I just, the people that we've had on and the people that we have coming on, just their friendships. They're people that we would have never met. You connect with people on all social media platforms, but do you really get to know them? Yeah. I believe with me, because I have a public page on Facebook, but I've always, what you see is who I am. I mean, I'll message people. If people message me, I will have a conversation. And then because I moved around so much, I learned, and so I dated a lot since I didn't get married until I was 59. I learned to be yourself. So the reason I bring him dating, I was on Match and all those things. I would always get, wow, you look exactly like your picture and you're exactly what you say you are. It's being who you are. And even with the flaws, we're all broken. We all have scars. Embrace them, because the brokenness and those scars are going to help somebody else. And that's why we're here. We need to help other people.
Yeah. Amen. And if we all just spend a little bit of time, and I know I hear other people say this a lot too, being kind is free. Like, it doesn't take anything to be kind. And empathy and compassion are two things that I feel should be more out there. And what I love about how LinkedIn has evolved since 2020, because it's become the platform of choice for a lot of folks. Because a lot of people had to come back, and a lot of people, including myself, was laid off for the first time in their entire career and could not get a job. And that was devastating emotionally, for so many reasons. But it also helped me see that so much of my identity was wrapped up into my job, and not necessarily the title, but my job.
Right.
And that was a great awakening for sure for myself. And I have on my headline now, recovered corporate executive, because what lives have done, and doing them unscripted and truly live, is you have to be present in it. You can't be sitting there really pre-calculating what to say, because we never know where a conversation's going to go. There's times where it's like, ooh, that came out of left field. I didn't see that coming. Yep. But it allows you to be present and listen. And it just gives you a totally different perspective, I think, on life. Because we all get so sucked into social media with our jobs, and we're working 24/7, and we're doing all these things that you get so stuck that you forget to slow down and really pay attention to what's going on around. It truly matters. I think that's the other huge factor to take away. I lost a dear friend almost 2.5 years ago. And I spent the last 2 weeks in the hospital with him. And he was a grumpy dude. Like, any of my friends would all say, oh, he had resting bitch face like no human I've ever known in my entire life. But he was the softest, gushiest dude on the inside. I just loved him. And the last 2 weeks while he was in the hospital, I saw him find his faith, and he changed. And I saw this crusty dude, and I mean crusty in the most, loving, endearing way. And anybody that knows him knows exactly what I mean. Turn into the most kind, compassionate, grateful, and thankful. All he could think about in those 2 weeks before he passed was that I want to be sure that I tell everybody exactly how I feel. I wasn't saying I want to go work one more day. I need to go make more money. I need to have a bigger house. I need to have a better car. All I cared about is how he was leaving people feeling, and how he felt at peace when he left. It was one of the most beautiful 2 weeks, and a hard 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie. Of course, I was still mourned. But I think there's such a gift in that. And that was the start of this whole process with Christy and I, because that did change my perspective on a lot of things. I had missed a lot by being in corporate America and working my ass off for so long. I was so focused on this. Like Kevin says, I had such tunnel vision on so many things that I was missing what was going around. And this has all been a journey to get present. And I think it's such a great reminder for everybody. Get present about what really matters. Because does it really matter that, do you really need to have that title, and do you really need to have that big paycheck and miss out on all these things with your friends and family? I don't know. And avoid part of mine was I was avoiding my own mental health, because I was proving I'm not good enough wrong by achieving, which sounds like a great thing, but it's not, because again, it's that tunnel vision.
Well, and the job market's still ugly. I'm still here to help job seekers. However,
Yeah.
now I'm working with a consultant who does HR consulting. Linda was on our show earlier last year. And what's interesting is because I've spent the last year and a half seeing how these companies, how these recruiters and agencies and in-house people are dealing with the whole job search, and also just the compliances. It just sort of amazes me because people need to get back to work. And unfortunately, the biases are out there. Ageism is real. And that hurts people.
Yep.
And people tend to forget they're going to get older too. You're going to get old too. And just guess what? The tables just might be turning sooner with you not having a job. So this is where it started, was, us talking to job seekers and recruiters. And then it went down into that pathway of about the mental health, because the main thing is people's mental health.
Yep. Amen.
Yes, we've got the control of our own mental health. We've got the power. However, the outside stuff, it hits us.
Yep.
Our head, the fret in our head is our worst enemy.
Yes.
And just, as Kelly just said, kindness is free. I just, again, I dance with a skeleton. And one of the icing on the cake for us to move back home, I was getting involved in a church. And I enjoyed it because I was learning. I've never read the whole Bible, and, I know bits and pieces and stuff like that, but I was enjoying taking the classes. I was enjoying, it was the first time I went to a church that I didn't feel judged, because I didn't walk in there caring if everybody was going to judge me, because it was my relationship going in. It was a relationship with God. It was the relationship of learning, listening to the pastor and everything. However, 2 times they called my husband in, first time I was there, and I got called out on my social media. Okay, so you're judging me? And so the second time.
Here's the kicker, though, too, for me anyways, because when
it was the pastors.
The judgment, for one, in a church, but 2, that they called your husband to talk about you. Like,
yes,
seriously.
Yes.
I was just, girl, God's not one.
Well, because I have a feeling they knew that the second time around I would have just blasted them. But anyway, so that's when I said to my husband, because we were actually 2 weeks before we moved to Florida out of Texas, we were on our way to Arizona, and my husband got a job. We moved there, and it ended up being a con. So my husband deals with ageism, and here we're now, anyway, long story short, that was the icing on the cake. And sometimes God shuts that door because you're never going to walk out. And I was, it was church. It was what my faith is, growing. But God said, nope, I'm shutting that door and you're going home. Yep. And I'm in this place that most people would have spiraled down. Yeah. And I didn't, because it's like, it's not my plan. Nope. And that's what's great about our guest. What they've gone through, it's not their plan. They've just gone through. Yes, some decisions were made.
Right.
However, I don't want to say went through it. They didn't get over it. They went through it.
And you don't get through it without repentance. You have to move through it. Like it's effort. I haven't said this in a long time, because if growth were easy, everybody would be doing it. It sucks. I mean, let's just be honest. It downright sucks sometimes. And when they are those moments in life where we didn't have the choice in it, when it just happens. My dad didn't come home one day. I didn't have a choice in that, but I had to figure out how to move through that, and how to heal from that, and how to grow from that. That wasn't fun. And I don't wish that upon anyone. But I have the most deep compassion and empathy for people who go through trauma. I mean, I know that's where a lot of it comes from. And I have such a blessing and such a look at what a gift my father was to me, because I had a father who loved me and he cherished me and my brother and was very involved. And my mother, he loved her. My brother and I used to be grossed out by it because he would grab my mom's hand at the dinner table when we were kids and be like, "Do you kids have any idea how much I love this woman?" And of course we were like, "Oh, gross." But what a model. And again, what a gift. And I've got a stepfather who's been in my life who also loves me. I'm wildly blessed. But I didn't feel that way for a long time. I mean, I'll tell you what, for at least the first 5 years, I was pissed. And I was mad at God. I had words with God. So I think there's all these different stages, but it's also knowing that you can't compare yourself. And we say this a lot too, and we'll start to wrap, is social media can be a place of self-comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Just because someone else goes through something similar to what you've gone through, and they seemingly got through it better, quicker, faster, whatever you want to say, you don't know. You have no idea. They're on a completely different path than you. Because guess what? You as you grow as a human, just in general, as we grow through these life lessons, we get through things quicker because we know, well, as much as I want to sit here and not go through this, like Kevin, I just have to lean into it and get to the other side. It's the prairie fire. And I love that story. And that will be in one of the shorts you'll have to watch for it, because I'm just going to leave. I don't want to tell the story now because it's a great one. But it is about, you've got to face your pain. It's not fun, but the quicker you lean into it and run towards it, the faster you get out of it. From the bigger is truly over time. So what are kind of thoughts to wrap here today, Christy, after 63 or 4, I should have counted for sure, episodes, and we've got 3 more to go before this season ends.
Yeah. And Lou's going to be our last one.
Yeah.
Because he's got his TV show going on. So that will be.
Yeah, he had to put us on hold for the Disney Channel.
Well, yeah, the Discovery. He's a Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel. I'm going to Disney, so that's why I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Discovery Channel. Well, yeah. I'm going for the Warrior Games, so adaptive sports. Yeah. I'm not going to Disney to celebrate that.
There you go. Yes, you're leaving tonight for the DoD Warrior Games in Orlando, hosted by ESPN with Wheelchairs for Warriors. So that's very cool. So excited. So no, as always, we babble, we go off, we go everywhere. And I am blessed with everything that has happened in my life. The good, the bad, and the truly ugly. Because we have to learn from them. I mean, you know, I was having a conversation with some people, and they were saying about dysfunctional families. Right now we're also all in the messy middle of our life.
Oh yeah.
You got the beginning and then the end, and you're in the messy middle. And then, you know, we all have dysfunctional people in our life, families, whatever. We embrace them because we're dysfunctional.
Yeah, we all are.
As long as you embrace yourself, everybody else will embrace you. That's what I've learned, because I didn't embrace myself for so many years, most of my life. So, but we're good to go.
Yes, yes, so exciting, and so as we wrap up season 1 of the Awesome Journey and have a little hiatus, like I said, watch for our shorts that we will be putting out. And we're wrapping strong, because we're wrapping with Ben and Jess Owen, Kevin Donaldson, and then Lou Velosi. I mean, talk about ending on a high note. And then we're going to kick it off on a high note. So there you have it.
Jake.
Yes. Oh, yes. So
He's
many
got
good
a great story.
He does. Yes, I was in a parking lot when we had our call, and I was crying. I think that's a
Yeah.
shock to so many people who have listened to us, but his story is incredible. And he's another one. You're going to feel like you went to church after hearing him. He's just such a great soul, so much motivation, inspiration, hope, all the things. And so as we do wrap today, thank you everyone for joining us today and just kind of doing a little review of where we've been and where we're going. And for Christy coming home to Arizona, I'm so excited about it. God does
Now you
work
just
in
have
this.
to find a house.
Yeah, well, we're working on it, or you're working on it, and then I'll go look at them and video them. So the benefit. So until next week at 1:11 p.m., y'all, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, we're all on this journey together, and together we truly do believe we make it awesome. Have a great day, everyone. God bless.